Welcome to another episode from our show, Anything Goes. We have done this show before where we try to ask youth about the pre-marriage period. We have went through many episodes where should we talk about courting, engagement, things that break engagement. Today we thought that we would like to discuss reasons why youth are not settling early. And I'm honored to have Amir, Mary, Makar, and Marianne. Some of those faces I'm sure you have seen in other Anything Goes and other CYC shows. So I'll start with this side. We're not doing boys against girls, so feel free to agree or disagree with your same gender. But reasons why we are not settling early, why youth are not ready to commit to marriage early. I'm seeing people 35, 37, maybe even later. I picked the four of you because all of you are graduated. I have 2 doctors, 1 finance specialist, and a lawyer. So, I mean, you can't have better crop than this. So let us start. I mean, we will have as much time as you want. But what are the reasons, in your opinion, we are delaying marriage?
I think one thing hands down is, like, since we're in a westernized culture, it's just known, like, in industrialized cultures and westernized cultures, people focus more on their careers and they delay settling down. And that's just across the board, and that's understandable. You know, there's more of an emphasis on oneself and, you know, perfecting oneself career-wise and, you know, being financially stable and all of that. And if time permits, then, and if, you know, they're, you know, if it's in their belief structure to actually want to, you know, settle down with one person and all of that, they do that. So I think that one's understandable. So that, I think that's one reason, definitely.
Agreement, disagreement?
I mean, I definitely agree with Amir.
You didn't have to, but fine. But what is that?
I usually agree with him. He's a good guy. I think definitely the Western culture thing, it's very individualistic, a lot less, I mean, like interdependent. We really focus on independence in America and in lots of these very developed countries. So that's one thing. At the same time, I think also in the countries where we're second generation, third generation, from the immigrating parents, I don't think as a church or as a community we really have a clear mechanism or a clear system or a clear understanding or approach to the stages before marriage. Just simply, we just don't have it. We don't know whether to call it dating or courting. We don't know how do you approach each other, and then we don't know the reputational risks that you're taking by talking to each other. And this stuff is like really upside down because everybody believes something different. But when you look at other, just outside the Coptic Orthodox in America culture, you'll see that they have, it's a lot more set, the way they kind of go about things. I mean, even though you see there's issues and stuff like that, but there's issues in everything. And I mean, definitely one thing that we know is that somehow the ultimate product that we have is not, in general, and I would even say the majority of the marriages are not what God intended. So there's something wrong in how these things are starting.
Okay, but let us leave God's intention now, because that's a whole topic, and I don't want to mix 2 topics together. But phases of pre-marriage segments, if you may, or are the stages. Have you gone through that? Have you thought about it? I know you were in Catholic schools when you were young. Is these things are known to you? Do you know of them? Do you know other girls who are in your medical school that they went through some of this?
So I think it's hard because we kind of separate the westernization, like the American dating versus the Coptic dating kind of thing. So it's kind of sometimes hard for us to differentiate between the two because, I went to Catholic school, but the majority of the people there were American, Italian, Irish, things like that. So it's very different. There was no Coptic people in my high school. Even college, there was like 2 or 3 Coptic people. So we kind of see the American dating, and we're like, oh, how come that's not, what we do? How come it's a little different for us? So I think what Makar was saying is true. It's kind of like we don't know what the process is for us, if that's something that we can do, is that something that's supposed to be done? It's kind of like a confusing thing initially.
Marianne.
I think it's a little twofold. I think in the beginning, and speaking on behalf of females, dating in general, until we graduate from, whatever doctor's program we are expected to graduate from, is shunned. Dating as a whole, like, your reputation is affected. Even when we were younger, it's just don't have guys as friends. I mean, this prolonged our, this commitment issue, and it prolonged getting into a relationship. And I think it confused females in general as to how they were going to go about this. Because then when they're approached by a male, it's just like, okay, well, I don't know what stage we're at, and I don't want to go too fast, and I don't want my reputation to be affected, and I didn't graduate school, so am I allowed to speak to another guy? So it's just a lot of confusion. And then I think the part 2 of that was what Makar and Amir were speaking about, where because of this fear, they end up being very career-driven, and many males are intimidated by that, especially ones that either were in Egypt and they're not.
Okay, we have a problem, right?
I knew
No, this is good. This is good.
I knew we would
Let
be.
me close the
We're
program.
gonna let this
is good.
go. Just give it.
All right, so
I completely mean what I say, but let me clarify.
Yes, you
But
better.
let me clarify.
Please clarify.
Is that granted? I've heard it from bishops, because men have confessed and have really complained that we don't know how to approach women of higher education. This came from men. I mean, I'm not making this up.
So you are a lawyer.
Yes.
Now, are you trying to say that men who have not have postgraduate education will not be able to propose to you, or even think of that you will accept him?
That seems to be what's going on. And I'm not talking about all men. Can I finish?
No, just 1 second.
I need to finish.
Yeah.
I didn't say all men. I said there's a group. That's part of it. And
You're in
I
trouble.
dug myself a hole. So, okay.
there are some men, again, who have admitted you
might
might
not
not
be
be
one
one
of
of
them.
them,
asking
okay?
you
And Amir
personally.
might be
That's
one
the
of
question. The question is for you personally.
You feel men coming to approach Marianne for possible proposal, they will be intimidated by you having a postgraduate degree, and I say I have a 4-year college, and he has a very good personality.
Would I say no, or would he be
Would you say
intimidated?
no first?
No. See, that's the thing. I think it's a misconception. I think most women would be more than okay with it, but because it becomes something.
Calm down. 1 second. Would you agree with that?
yeah, I would agree. I mean, I personally, like, I obviously wouldn't be intimidated, even if again, it depends on the guy. But, if that's the case, then that's the case. I don't know anybody who would be intimidated, but then again, I hang out with a certain group of guys that are pretty confident. Anyway, Makar, you're gonna say something. And then I have something, okay, just go.
So maybe you can say while I remember.
Okay, all right. I just have, I'm glad Marianne brought up a point about guys. I have my own reservations, and this is gonna get me into a heap of trouble, but it is what it is. I'm not in the market, like, I'm not looking for anybody right now, so I don't care anyway.
We don't put actually your email and everything in, so nobody will call you from COIC.
You'll probably get hate mail from me, but it is
All right.
A struggle that I'm going through, and something that upsets me sometimes is seeing a duality with some of these with Coptic girls. And I'm not saying this is a general thing. I'm not saying that this happens all the time, but it sometimes happens, and it's really upsetting. I won't even say sometimes. Often it happens where you have a girl that seems to be, from what you see, at least at church when you're, hanging out with her, when you're interacting with her, she's very nice. She seems like godly, and she seems very, moral. Yeah, you really don't know if she's spiritual or not because, you know, you're not God. And then,
Double personality.
yeah, and she seems all right. But then afterwards, let's say, and I'm not playing judge or jury here, but then let's say you go on Facebook or something, and you see, like, extremely inappropriate. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. Yeah, you know, if anything, people would probably say that I'm more on the liberal side. But certain things that are just clearly inappropriate. And then I would hear from reliable, like, sources that, you know, this girl's a little promiscuous. That upsets me. And not because of the fact that, you know, she's doing these things. This is her choice. God has given her a will, and she's free to do whatever she wants. But it's deceptive, and if you're willing to do this, then at least have the integrity to do it in whatever building you're in. You know, at least have the integrity to be who you are.
So you are
regardless.
saying that some Coptic girls.
Some.
Let's be very careful with the word "some" today, because you were about to be in big trouble.
Wait, by the way, afterwards, I just want to remember what we were saying that made us both go crazy.
I mean, that's your job to remember. Yeah, that boys are less confident when they come to speak to girls who are very achieving.
Wasn't there something before that?
That's what you were upset.
You're telling me how I was feeling. Okay, let's
Can
go.
we just-
Yeah, but
let's go
one
back.
second. But what he's saying now is that there is a group of some Coptic girls that they actually will live a double-faced life. And from that perspective, you feel it's very hard to really get to know a person because you don't know which face you are knowing.
Yeah, and I don't blame them because a part of it is our culture, unfortunately. The fact that we have the same culture could be great in the church, but sometimes and oftentimes it is a hindrance because of the fact that not only is it a religion, but it's also a culture, and then there's shame and all that.
To this.
I mean, it's
It's not only the case with Coptic girls, I think it's with even other cultures,
right.
or like with any kind of relationship that you're starting. If you're starting to talk to someone, it's going to be a risk that you're going to take, and you know you're going to get to know the person eventually. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer than you expected, and then you'll find out that, you know, it wasn't what it was supposed to be. But it's kind of like you're going to be taking that risk anyways, and just because someone is one way at a certain point and one way in a different point doesn't mean that, you know, they're right for you or not right for you. It's just kind of like something that you have.
I wanna get back to another point about the confidence thing. Do you guys generally feel that a very confident girl is very hard to be approached for possible proposal? What do you think?
I think
Yeah, but be realistic, please. What?
It's going to lay down some knowledge.
all right. No, let's start with the keyword "some." All right, but I think a lot of our good, great, you know, confident girls, the ones that are at the top of the tree, right?
There's a tree.
Yeah, I said it. They don't. People
okay.
don't know. Yeah,
Oh, right, got it.
Yeah.
Now I know.
the tree grows.
1 second. Keep going.
I'm very metaphorical. I think they kind of have no idea what to do when they're approached by a guy. Just quite
Which
simply.
is some? What's
No,
defined
okay,
as
okay.
some again?
Let me be more serious. I think the really good girls have no idea what to do when they're approached by a guy. I think part of it is that they're trying to protect themselves, which is fine, right? So because there's a lot of guys are. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way, but a lot of guys are just kind of crazy in their approach. Like they're so functional that like, I'm single, you're single, let's mingle, you know, whatever, right? Something like that. I just made that up right now, by the way. It rhymes, Dr. Seuss. So they don't like they have no idea what they're doing, right? They just go up to girls. They don't care about their
keep
feelings.
going with yourself.
But then there's other guys who are just fine. But I think girls who live this like who grow up to be these great, you know, godly Christian women, right? All the steps they took to get up there to be great. Now any guy that comes up to them is gonna have to like bend over backwards and like do like somersaults midair to like talk with her, to get her number, to go out with her on a date.
One
and all
second,
these
but
things.
why do you think she's doing this? Is she playing hard to reach because she thinks of herself
I think
much
'cause
better than
society
others?
just no.
Or you think he himself is falling short because he feels that the gap, he is not that confident, as she said?
I'm kind of
Like falling short.
I don't know about the falling short thing.
No, but stay with the topic.
Okay.
I mean,
I think, I'm just saying, I'm assuming here that the guy is a good guy. He's ready, like he's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with him. And I'm always assuming that they're an appropriate match, by the way. Like they're equal. They can see eye to eye or face to face. But even then, I think the structure, like she doesn't know what to do. Like she's approached by a guy. I mean, the thing is, in the end, as much as we talk about the movies aren't like, you know, the model for relationships, in the end, the only way it's going to work is if some kind of like movie-like thing happens with the girl, right? That's what I'm saying. She really needs like some kind of like retreat service, co-service thing to happen, right? Where they're talking with each other, they got to plan a workshop.
You're too harsh, by the way, but okay, too harsh.
I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So
I love this guy.
Okay. You wanna rebuttal that or? Okay, too much. You wanna rebuttal that?
No, I know all girls are gonna hate me for this, but I kind of agree with him. I think some girls, probably me included, but they kind of have like their guard up. It's kind of like you're taught when you grow up in like a Christian Coptic household, you're taught to protect yourself. You're taught to guard your heart. So you're kind of like trying to keep that wall up, keep that barrier up, and it kind of like scares some people away. They think that, you know, you're not willing to talk to them just because you're a little bit more reserved, just because you're a little bit more, you know, calm in terms of like being social and things like that.
Would you say that a lot of Coptic girls were almost taught that they are men out there to get them? And when they are actually becoming in a more social, comfortable place, and they are social confident with themselves, it's very hard for them to really revert back and say, okay, let me open up. I mean, it's...
I think another part of the fear for us girls is that I know like a lot of guys that are talking to like multiple girls at once. So it's kind of like, you know, is he talking to this other girl at the same time? Is he getting to know like 5 different people at once and saying, oh, okay, I'm going to pick her now? So I think that's another part of it, is like kind of the fear of...
Is that wrong? Like, I mean, and that's why, like Makar said, we have to address this label of dating. I mean, dating, at least how I know it, is you're lightly speaking to many people and seeing, you know, just dabbing and like seeing, you know, who you click with. But I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, if you're getting more serious with someone, then yeah, you really should cut off everything else with this other person if you see promise in this one particular
But
girl.
what about the girl, though? Maybe
she should be going around
able
too.
to talk to other boys in the same time. And what would you do if you would find out?
Yeah, and are you giving that person a fair chance if you're mingling with 5
Yeah, you would
different
never.
people at once?
I think that's they always say that, and I think for a guy, it's like, oh well, I don't know if I'm gonna click with her, and so I'm gonna be able to speak to many girls at the same time. But if they were to find out that girl was intimately speaking, okay, forget intimately, but if she was speaking to them on a personal level, going out with both of them at the same time, that would not go well.
I'll tell you, it depends on the guy. If he's a confident guy, and if he's the
It would
type
go well with you?
to accept a challenge, yeah.
Would it go?
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, this girl, I'm vying
honestly,
with some other guy for him.
Honestly, I
and I'll go
like
for
what
it.
Amir is saying, and I understand what you're saying too. But I would just want to throw a very important factor here, which is communication. That they need to talk about where they are in the relationship at all times. That like once you get to the point of exclusivity, then okay. But before then, it should be kind of clear that we're just hanging out. And this is at that stage pre-exclusivity. I think that's where we have the issue.
I'm getting hints from the director that we're supposed to finish this episode. So I don't want you to move because we are going to start another episode right away. And for our friends in CYC, this is really have been one of few episodes on marriage or pre-marriage period. A lot of things were said today that we did not settle. So I promise you, we will try to settle some of them next time. So until next time, have a great time. God bless you. Thanks.